Welcome to Glasscast, a podcast of the National Glass Association and Glass Magazine. I'm your host, Katy Devlin, and today we are going to be digging into glass fabrication. Specifically, we're going to be talking about automation, technology trends, smart factory solutions, and more. And for this conversation, I am delighted to be joined by Cliff Green, the founder of TSS Glass Machinery Sales, Inc. Welcome, Cliff. I like to start every podcast by asking folks to introduce themselves. Let's talk about your history in the industry. I know you've been around glass for your career, so let's talk about your history, your company, and just kind of your experience that brings you here today.
Well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I've been here a minute. I started in 1985. Company that was ACI Distribution, and it was on the West Coast in Santa Fe Springs, California. And then formerly, you would remember maybe Vitro America. And so I was there for 22 years. And I left there in 2006, and I founded TSS, Glass Machinery Sales. And so I kind of stayed small for quite a while. I didn't want to get too big. Okay. But anyways, at some point in my career, I said, I got to think about the next phase. And so then I decided, okay, we're going to develop a team that can continue to move forward and keep this going for a while, because I think it's a great company, and I think our customers appreciate us. So,
well, I'm sure, you've got what, two decades plus of direct work in the glass fabrication side of things, really understanding what your customers need, right?
Yeah, that's a unique situation I think I have compared to maybe some of the other equipment suppliers. So for 22 years, I worked in fabrication plants. And at the end of my career with Vitro America, I oversaw 24, 25 plants. So I started on the floor, basically I was pushing a broom. Okay. And then, yeah, continued until I left in 2006 and then founded this company at the end of the year and end of that year. And we represent pretty much anything you would need in a glass fabrication plant, whether it's a tempering machine or cutting tables, washers, polishers, service, water treatment, insulated lines, labels, tooling, pretty much the whole plant.
So we're recording this podcast in advance of NGA's brand new event. This is our brand new event for the Glass Fabricator. So directly for that that audience and your customers. It's called GFAB, the NGA Glass Fabricator Conference. We're going to be in Chicago, June 14th through 17th. You'll be there. TSS will be there at GFAB, really talking through factory automation and this idea of a smart factory. So, I understand from our conversations prepping for this podcast that you are a U.S. agent for YNRE or YR, the Smart Factory System. It's a technology that's already been widely established in Europe and China. And I'm curious. I'd like to chat through a little bit of that. Why is now the right time to bring this smart factory technology to the American market?
Well, historically, smart factories in Europe, very expensive. Okay. And it was really hard to justify. And in the US, we didn't really have a labor shortage. And I think in Europe, that was kind of the driver, was to help reduce labor. And China started to develop a type of fabrication that they do, their business setup. And but I resisted bringing any CNC equipment from China into the US. I just didn't feel the quality was there. I didn't feel like the reliability was there. But over the last, say 5 years, the improvement the technology that's happened is really impressive. And so I made the decision about a year and a half ago at different manufacturers. And so I went over there, took a Chinese lady that works for me to kind of help get me around. And we visited a lot of places. And I quickly learned that Yunru was really the number one. They have well over 400 fully automated smart factories, not just in China, but in around the world. Quite a few in Saudi Arabia and in the Middle East, and they have I don't know, probably 100 programmers. They develop their own MES system, their own ERP. I mean, so they have the equipment and the software. So it's a fully integrated deal. And so anyways, I thought, okay, China's ready. Okay. And certainly the US has this need. The end user is wanting bigger and bigger glass. They're wanting higher and higher quality. And a smart factory really plays well with that because very little handling. So you don't get a lot of handling errors. You can handle big pieces of glass, so you're not worried about people hurting themselves. So I just felt like this is the time.
Mm-hmm. So I want to take a step back a little bit because we hear smart factory. You hear that a lot. But what is it? Like, can you walk us through what a smart factory actually looks like?
Yeah, that's a good question because people, like smart factory. Well, what's a smart factory? And I know when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is incredible. But what I'd like to do is share video, and then maybe after the video, I'll go through and kind of point out some key aspects of what a smart factory is. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. So while you're queuing that up, I'll say we've obviously got folks who are tuning in on YouTube, but for anybody who's maybe listening on one of the podcast apps, you might want to switch over to that. But we will, Cliff will kind of talk through what's happening in the video so you at least can get a sense.
So this is a pretty good overview of a smart factory. This, believe it or not, is a small one when you look at it from things that I've seen in China. So they have different types of sorting systems, and basically what you're trying to do is automate the entire process flow from receiving the glass to cutting it, inspecting it, auto batching, storage, so that it marries up. Because you cut clear glass now, but what happens when you have to IG that with a piece of low E? Well, you're not going to temper the low E or cut the low E for hours from now, but you still need to get those matched up. And so a smart factory does all of that. So it auto batches your furnace, so it improves your furnace bed utilization. You can see that it keeps it in storage here. It's automatically feeding an IG line. And this is kind of a nice little picture here. It shows that you've got 4 cutting systems here, all being fed by the same autoloader. Some edging goes into storage, and then it's feeding 2 tempering furnaces, and it's feeding an insulated line. So there's a lot going on here, and that's pretty impressive that we're able to do that.
Well, one thing that you don't see in that video, you don't see a lot of people on the floor. And I know that, as our team, we were prepping for this call, we talked a lot about just labor and the challenges that our industry is facing with labor and safety. And, I wonder, as you're queuing up these other slides, if you can talk through a little bit about smart factory when it comes to people.
That's, one of the things that you'll notice if you go into a smart factory is there's very, very few people. And you kind of wonder, well, are these guys even busy? Are they doing anything? And and you walk through, and it's just impressive because all the machines are working and running, and you got full batches on the tempering furnace. So it's pretty impressive. So, this is kind of what does a smart factory bring, right? Okay, you increase your production capacity. So, on a tempering furnace, as an example, if you're getting a 35-40% furnace bed utilization, that's probably around average, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to remember. Back in my day, I think the best I ever got was 55. I'm not saying that's good, but here you can expect to get a significantly improved furnace bed utilization. And same with cutting, because it reintroduces any recuts that need to be done. Improved quality. You can have scanners at various locations that look at the glass, inspect it, and if it's not good, it'll exit it out and then reintroduce that back into production right away. And so obviously it increases your satisfaction. You can cost your glass, so you know what it costs you to produce that piece of glass, because it's also monitoring your equipment, whether it's from how much energy it's consuming or how much downtime it's got. So and then also I think you end up getting a improvement in your brand, because if you can think, hey, I have a big job and I want to impress my potential clients, and you bring them into a smart factory, they're like, wow. So that just might make the difference. So here are some components of kind of the smart factory. So it starts with your storage, okay, and your automatic loading. And then, of course, you got your cutting table. And then here's a laser logo. And it's not a logo like for tempered logo, although it could be. It's really a QR code that's allowing the system to know exactly where the glass is and what's going on and keeping track of it. And this is an XYZ automatic breakout. There are some people in the US that have these, not many, I would say. So you don't have to have one, but auto breakout also adds to some productivity. And then here's the defect detection system that I mentioned earlier. And it can be in multiple places. So you see one over here on the right, you got another one here on the left. This is kind of I don't want to say the heart, but it's like the centerpiece of what allows a smart factory to really be a smart factory. Because as you're cutting glass, as you're moving glass from one process to the next, you need to keep track of it. But just because you finished it on process A, you may not be ready to do anything with that for 2 or 3 hours for process B, but you need to be able to find it and get it to that next process. And these storage sorting systems allow you to do that. So this is an example of a vertical one. So it goes in here. This is horizontal, and it comes out, and this tilt table down, and it moves the glass into the vertical position. And then here's some horizontal sorting systems. So an example could be your pre-batching for your tempering furnace. So you're loading full batches on a horizontal conveyor. Okay. Here, this could be a buffer for a horizontal IG line. Okay. You get real-time productivity and power consumption. I mean, you walk up to the screen. I know this is in Chinese. I'm sorry, but basically, it's telling you, okay, what you're producing, how much energy you're consuming, and obviously, energy is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And you got a plan overview. So you walk up, you say, okay, what's going on, and you see a piece of glass here and a piece of glass there, and you can actually see it moving in the plant real time. Uh, this is a 3D image of your plant. So the same thing, you bring somebody in to see your facility, and you have a big, TV monitor, and here you go. They can they have a nice overview of what you've got. So pretty impressive there. So
Yeah,
that's kind of a good overview.
yeah. Well, and there's so many elements of that that are striking, the ability to use the QR code to sort of track through the facility, the sorting systems. I mean, it really is kind of the next level of productivity efficiency in the glass plant. But I'm curious, for a glass fabricator who's listening, who's never seen this in action, um, like what is the most tangible difference between walking into a more traditional facility and then walking into a plant for this that has a smart factory solution?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, you walk in and you don't think they're doing anything. It's like, okay, well, they're dead. But the reality is they're just highly efficient. The other thing that you notice is that there's not a lot of clutter. The plant's clean. You walk through it, because you don't have people throwing stuff everywhere, right? So it's just a lot more organized and feels less stressful, I guess.
I talked to a lot of fabricators, and a lot of them are a little bit just nervous about adopting like such high levels of automation, or maybe they're just slower to adopt. I think that's sort of a general theme across the US is that this industry has been a little bit slower to adopt some of these next level technologies in the plant. Why is that, and what is changing right now?
Well, new things are scary. Change is scary. Okay. The fear of the unknown is scary. So I think that's a big part of it. The other thing I believe has been, uh, the thought behind a smart factory was this huge investment, huge, right? And well, number one, am I going to be able to, fund that kind of investment? And how do you really get a payback with that? And I believe that what YR or Yunrei has to offer is that they bring a very high quality product at a reasonable price, something that people can afford. And the other thing is when you automate, um, your skill sets that you need in your plant have changed. So, before what you needed was a guy that could, grind glass and cut it and, handle glass. That was your skill set. Well, that skill set in a smart factory is really less important. You just have a few people that need to do that. So you need some people that can, operate a PLC and input in the computer. So it's really just a different skill set. But Yinray has they have their own MES system, their own SCADA, their own ERP. They have, I don't know, 150 engineers on staff, programmers, not technicians installing. This is just computer guys, okay? And they're 24/7. So they can dial in, they can see what's going on, you call them, they can help walk you through.
So one last question for you. We're going to all be in Chicago, as I mentioned, for GFAB, our new event. Um, this is a place where we're really focusing on the factory floor, improvements on the factory floor, in addition to overall trends in the industry. We'll be looking at what's possible with glass, communicating with the architects, design communities, as well as just some high level business management topics. So for you looking at GFAB and talking to your customers? Why should fabricators head to Chicago?
Well, Chicago's got great food. That's number one. Okay. Um, but really, you know, GFAB, I think, kind of originated with GPAD and kind of transitioned. And I've been to many conferences, and I like GPAD. I think it did a good job. There's good networking, and the intent was to try to educate, right? Um, and it kind of morphed more into selling, and and I think that's really what wasn't the original intent of it. And I'm excited that the NGA has converted that now with a different focus. Instead of trying to sell, you're trying to educate. Okay, and so when they reached out to me and asked me to speak about smart factories, I thought it was a great opportunity. Number one, um, to kind of introduce YR, but also I think it's a great opportunity for the fabricators to kind of get to know what's out there and say, wow, this could work in my factory. And the other thing I didn't mention, but I really should, is that you don't have to implement from A to Z. Okay. You may implement a smart factory portion just for tempering, as an example. Okay. It doesn't have to be all inclusive. And I think people go there, and obviously I'll be there, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can and help you walk through it.
So one more to throw at you, just would the Cliff of yore who was pushing the broom around the glass factory floor, what would he have thought of this walking into one of these factories?
Oh, I would have just stopped with my jaw open because, I look, I've always kind of pushed the technology side. Um, I was the guy that I didn't have technology just to have technology. I didn't like that. I thought that was stupid, right? And there were a lot of people that did that. They were just, geeks or whatever term you want to use there. But for me, I wanted things that made it more productive for me, to make my job easier so that I could focus more on the important stuff. Okay. Um, uh, I mean, even when, the two-way cellular radios, I had one right away, and I got all my guys because I wanted to be able to communicate right now. Okay. And and I see this is the same kind of a thing.
Well, it is exciting. I'm excited to see you in Chicago. This has been a really lovely conversation. Um, Cliff Green from TSS, thank you so much for being here.
Katie, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Have a great day.